right. This is me typing. Happy Saturday, everybody. Just getting ready to share the post. Sorry for the delay. There was a train parked on the tracks and living there apparently. Because you know how well our rail system's doing. You know. Talk to the folks in East Palestine about that. Welcome. Happy Saturday. I hope that your weekend is going well so far. Thank you to Councilwoman Burns for the wonderful introduction and during her show. And I want to say thank you to 810 News Media Group and, of course, Mickey Jordan, my producer. I call you my producer because you keep it all together and you handle the chaos. So this is going to be our weekly community update. And so we're going to get started. Going to make sure everybody has a minute or so to hop in. So I'm going to gab for just a moment. And day 3,389. 3,389. 9 years, over 9 years, almost 9.5 years of the Flint water crisis, which of course there's more pieces to that than just bad water. You know what happened to me, Mickey? I had a guy who lives in northern Michigan that said, well, your water's just gross. And I'm like, okay, but do you understand how it got gross? No. And they're like, well, it's because you didn't have a backup system. I'm like, what are you even talking about? So that goes to the ignorance and the inexperience. And yeah, in a lot of ways, it's 2014 and 2015 all over again, where I'm sitting here on social media and wherever telling people, no, that's not how it is. This is what's happening. And by the way, be careful because the same state agency, the Department of Environmental Quality / now Eagle, told us our water's safe, still telling us our water's safe. We know it's not. And telling you your water's safe. So yeah. But yeah, I just want to say hi. I can see JoJo there. She just so you know, JoJo's one of the sweetest people you ever gonna meet. Just wonderful. And I got to be present when the third ward city council person was threatening her. Don't know how that's. Oh yeah, with his family. Yeah.
I missed.
Man, I'll tell you what. Look, I'm going to tell you. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Melissa Mays. I'm a Flint resident, activist since January 2015, an advocate for clean, safe water for Flint and everywhere. And I founded What Are You Fighting For in January 2015 as a portal of accurate information, because that's me. Research is my thing. And then in February 2016, we helped form and joined Flint Rising, which was just a coalition of Flint groups and allies and residents going door to door to make sure that the residents had filters, proper safety information. They knew not to boil the water until they, filtered it first, and getting bottled water and food and resources to folks. And we knocked on 37,000 doors. And we had our canvas team going door to door. We had volunteers from all over the country coming in to help us talk to the residents to find out what they wanted. And there are 3 demands that if you go to flintrising.com, you can see the 3 demands that were the majority that, what the people were asking for. One is to replace every single piece of contaminated, ruined infrastructure, from the water treatment plant to the distribution mains in the streets, to the service lines that connect the distribution mains to the streets, to the interior plumbing fixtures like faucets and spigots and appliances, anything that the water touched and ruined, to be replaced by Flint hands, because we should not have underemployed plumbers in the middle of a water crisis. And we should not have a high unemployment rate. We should have people going to work. And thankfully, our local plumbers and pipe fitters union have an amazing apprenticeship program going on. Harold Harrington and the folks over there have been amazing, because they knew that it wasn't going to be just Flint, that this was happening everywhere. Now, Flint's different because politics did this to us. So that's going to be the later part of this show, as I'm recapping the city council meeting I went to on Monday. My goodness. But another demand was full wraparound healthcare, mental health supports, and education supports for every impacted residents for life. So basically like Medicare for all. So it follows you. We end up getting a Medicaid expansion for kids that ends when you turn 21, which the poisoning continues, but apparently the coverage doesn't. And then, because the people who are guilty of the poisoning and other communities like East Palestine, Ohio, are finding this out that when the poisoners are in control of your recovery, you don't have one, which is why we're about 9.5 years into the Flint water crisis. And also that, we need a refund of all water bills paid since April 25th, 2014, when they switched our water to a lower quality source that was more caustic, and they refused to treat it properly. This is the state who was in control of the city at the time, and through former Governor Snyder's emergency manager law, and took over, switched the water, refused to treat it, covered it up as people died. And 100,000 people were exposed to lead, copper, aluminum, tin, chromium, heavy metals, plus cancer-causing disinfection byproducts and deadly bacteria. So, and people are still dealing with H. pylori and polyps in their stomach, which can lead to stomach cancer. So again, we got to take care of our own and take care of our bodies. So don't ever forget that part. So those are the demands that came out the most common. And of course, jail time for the people that poisoned 100,000 people to see justice as if they were one of us. Now, to me, if they don't want to put them in jail, which, of course, that's where people who poison others and lie when people die should go, make them live in Flint with no pipe replacement, no interior plumbing replacement, and no filters, and enjoy that. So I think that would be a little fair, don't you? So anyhow, and Mickey had to step out for a phone call. So if I'm missing comments, I'm going to try to keep a track of it, which is why this cannot be a one-man show. And Mickey's amazing. So I'm seeing... Oh, great. So Jolena says, we have a water leak on my street in front of my house. The water's coming out of the crack. Oh, my God. Can't see where it's starting from. Been draining into the sewer for weeks. And I have black crap in my water. Oh, that's sediment. Honey, if you could take samples, so get clean waters or jars and collect samples of this. Again, we struggle still to find independent testers who are willing to test the water, but seeing if we can get an idea of what that is. But of course, stay safe. Bottled water, please. Filter if you're going to. There's shower head filters we use. They're like $30 on Amazon, which nobody should be spending this extra money. Right? Nobody should have to spend this extra money to make the water not hurt them. But, according to our current mayor, Sheldon Neely, he says, oh, don't worry, filters are just for comfort. Well, yeah, because the water will burn you, poison you, all that great stuff. But that's obviously an unscientific opinion. Thank you, Nancy and AC, for popping on and watching. It's a little creepy thing. It says, these people are watching you. Yikes. No, I appreciate you being here with me on a Saturday afternoon. And I try to bring good news and uplifting stuff, and then a dose of sarcasm, because that's me. And we're going to talk about some things today. We're going to talk about water bill assistance and also quality. And yeah, so basically, it's good times, right? Everybody living in Flint, pat yourself on the back. You've made it through another week. You made it through another day, and you're standing up and you're fighting. And so we've got a lot going on in Flint and across the board. There are things coming up. The federal lead and copper rule, which is the law that the state and city violated that ended up poisoning us, is up for review. And we have a say. So when they introduce their new version of the lead and copper rule, we need everybody to come to the meetings that we're going to be having and get educated and put in your comment, because they have to listen to the public comment. There's a lot of bills state-wise that we need to reach out to our state reps and our state senators saying, knock it off. One is a bill that would tax bottled water 10 cents a bottle, like it would for the pop, like it would for pop or soda, if you say that. I say pop, but yeah. And I get it. They're trying to reduce the use of plastics, but we need safe water first, and you're punishing the poison folks. So you need to reach out to your state rep and say, no, they need to vote no and stop the movement of this bottle bill going through our state legislature. And again, the goal should be replacing all tainted and damaged, corroded, rupturing infrastructure before worrying about taking out bottled water, because in some communities, bottled water is the only thing we've got to stay safe. Of course, we're not getting it for free anymore in Flint because, the powers that be decided, let's not even worry about getting what people need. But hey, there we are. We're going to talk about voting as well. So there are things that we're going to keep everybody updated on as they're moving forward. There's a lot of things going on, and you have a voice in them, and they do impact your daily life. It's funny because people will say, hey, politics ain't my thing. I'm like, they're not mine either, but politics and politicians control basically our air quality, our water quality, how much we pay in taxes, if we get taxed on the life-saving, life-protective bottled water, things like that, legislation. And again, it's a messed up world that we live in, unfortunately, where uneducated, unqualified politicians who come in get to decide what's safe for us and what's not. Public health should never be a political issue, but here we are. So COVID was an excellent example of that, as the information got skewed based on people's personal, not scientific opinions, and then also making it political just so some folks can garner up some, votes and attention and ratings for certain news programs by manipulating people's fear and hate of one another. So that being said, me with my cheerful self, I want you guys to know that there are people that fight for us, and it may not be in the way that you like. Okay. So what? Okay. Is this what we're doing? Check this out. I'm trying to. Let's see. Most municipalities get a water report monthly or quarterly. We have to believe it's accurate. No, actually, it's annual, and the only reason it's annual is because we forced the water quality report to come out. And there is a water quality confidence report, and I believe I have ours that we received, and it's due out every July. And a lot of people will say my water's fine. The report said, oh, here it is, because this is what I carry with me. The reports are fine. So if anybody got this, folded over, not that you can see it, City of Flint 2022 annual water quality report, right? It's a year behind, and it's supposed to go out annually. And that, of course, is if your city or municipality is doing their water testing properly, which, we found that they are not. This is the report that I refer back to when I talk about how important it is that you value your health over what your elected officials are telling you, especially if they're not doctors or water quality experts. And after sitting in on city council a couple times so far this year, they're not. So basically, it talks about the water source, and there is a section on the first page that says information for people with special health concerns. Some people may be more vulnerable to contaminants in drinking water than the general population. Immunocompromised persons, such as persons with cancer, undergoing chemotherapy, persons who have undergone organ transplants, people with HIV, AIDS, or other immune system disorders, elderly, and infants can particularly be at risk. Pregnant women as well. Anybody with an immune system that's compromised, which unfortunately for Flint is a bulk of us because we were, poisoned. So that does happen to change, alter, compress, suppress your immune system as your body reacts to the toxins. And then it says these people should seek advice about drinking water from their healthcare providers. The US EPA/CDC guidelines on appropriate means to lessen the risk of infection by crypto. So it's talking about bacteria and other microbiological contaminants are available from the Safe Drinking Water Hotline, and it's 800-426-4791. So then it talks about some definitions, but I just want to point out again where it talks about, hey, everything's fine. It's not just what it says, it's what it doesn't say. So it talks about copper and lead, and it talks about the range. It says we're not in violation, but the range of lead from their testing was 0 to 795 parts per billion. Again, the only safe level of lead is 0, and 15, which we're trying to work on lowering, is the action level, meaning it's the level that says, hey, something's really wrong with your corrosion control, do something about it. But the only safe level that comes through your tap is 0. Your body is a neurotoxin. There's no vitamin. There's no, benefit to lead whatsoever. And yes, it impacts people of all ages. Just so you know, it's not just kids under 6. It's not just the elderly. It's not just pregnant. It's bad for everybody. As my neurologist said, when you put heavy metals into an electrical system, bad things happen because it's not supposed to be there. So don't be ingesting heavy metals. So please, please, please please be very, very, very careful. So, and then also, let's see, Buick updated. Operated on the Flint River. And that's another thing, too. Yeah, so the Flint River in itself has warnings saying don't eat the fish because of mercury, PFAS, and also, as is this what we do in, said, yeah, that's basically it's been dumped in because there were plants that ran along the Flint River that dumped into the river for about 100 years. Um, so General Motors had fines of around 35 million for the I can't do this without you, Mickey. Just so you know.
Oh,
just so you know. No,
I'm just, I'm here
don't apologize. No, I'm just saying, like, yo, I cannot do this without you. I was like reading, I was like, I'm dumb. No, it's just you're awesome. No, I just want to thank you. Like, no, yeah, no, you have a life too, you know. But no, it just also I appreciate you. I just want to make sure you know that. So basically they dumped in it. They didn't clean it up. They filed for bankruptcy. Racer Trust, which you'll hear a lot of if you watch City Council, took over and did no cleanup. And then Chevy in the Hole got sold for like $1. Huh? Yeah. So Chevy in the Hole, even though it had all the toxin stuff. So yeah, that's a whole long history of corruption because they want to put a state park in Flint and they want it to be there over top of the, the toxic soil that people weren't allowed to walk on. There was big fences and stuff, but they're going to put sod over it to make it look nice. So that's a whole different situation. So I was going to talk about, I wanted you to be in here for this, Mickey, was City Council.
Oh, thank God. I'm ready. Because I was going I'm waiting to say that. I'm like, I got to get back in here. It was my auntie anyway to let everybody know. I'm like, I got to get back in, auntie. I want to ask this question because, I want to ask you the big thing.
Let me just start with, I threatened Mickey physically. Mickey, last week, if you watched the show last week, Mickey said that, there was a meeting on Monday and we needed to go because there's a lot of important information. And in my mind, in case you didn't know, the federal court mandated August 1st to be the deadline for when the city of Flint was to be done with excavations, meaning they dug at everybody's homes, identified the material of the service lines. So, and if it's lead or galvanized steel, the city had to replace it. So that was the judge's deadline again. And we've extended this deadline over and over and over again. Because up until 2019, the end of 2019, there was 27,000 holes dug. And then it got stopped. There was only a few thousand left, but then 2020, the current administration of the city of Flint stopped all of the work, even the restoration because of COVID, even though, the restoration work, which restoration means your yards, sidewalks, streets, your driveways, whatever got dug up, your homes, whatever got dug up had to be repaired. And restored to where it was beforehand. And that was all supposed to be done. There was no work done. So basically the work got stopped early 2020. We said, okay, take 6 months to gather how you're going to do this plan safely. And then they didn't. The city didn't. They weren't testing. We had to take them back to court in 2020 because they were not testing properly, of course, again. And then 2021, there was nothing, no digging, no work being done, no anything. And then we had to go back and drag them back into court. And then 2022, nothing got done until after Labor Day. And that's because we had to file in court again for a violation yet again for the deadline that the city themselves had set at that time. Once again, it was September 1st. So again, the city in the past few years we've spent more time in court fighting excuses and just not working than actually doing anything to help the people. So, and again, so basically we went to court. We filed a petition for the EPA to come in and take over in September 2015. And then January of 2016, we filed for the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act violation. And the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act requires the attorneys, so the plaintiffs have to be made up of a specific, because there's no money in this, but it has to be representative of the entire city. And we have to show that there is a danger, not just in the past, but moving forward. So this is not the money damages lawsuit. That's a whole different lawsuit in of itself. But this was to enforce the city and state to comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act, which meant replacing pipes, providing bottled water, providing filters, providing education. And so we filed that in January of 2016. And the makeup of the plaintiffs were still are, the Natural Resources Defense Council, ACLU of Michigan, and then it has to have at least one impacted resident, myself, but then also the Safe Drinking Water Act requires that a group that would be able to represent membership, of the entire city with no dues. No dues. So, it couldn't be a group that paid dues, that was open to the public, needed to represent the city, especially a city of 100,000 people. Because we made history when we filed this lawsuit, because this was huge, right? And we weren't filing against a private corporation. I mean, kind of is. Corporations own our city and state, but that's a different story.
Wait a minute. I can't let that slide. You said corporations?
Yes. Okay. Corporations and foundations tend to make all the decisions for the city and state. Our government is, status quo. Jordan Chariton calls it the United Corporations of America. Because all the decisions are made for what's best for certain people politically and what's best for investors in Wall Street financially. And again, so the Concerned Pastors for Social Action, we're already an existing group that we're fighting things like racial injustice, economic injustice, and things like that. But what they were able to do is say anybody could walk into a church and be a member. You don't have to pay. So that's why when people are like, why are the pastors part of the lawsuit? Because there had to be a group that represented all of Flint that you didn't have to pay dues to be a part of. And that's churches. We had, I think, like 260 churches. So that's why the Concerned Pastors got chosen. And again, this is not a money lawsuit, even though there's money. We say $97 million for the pipes. Yeah, that's paying for the work. Nobody makes money. So we didn't get paid anything. We did this because it was what's right.
Can you say that again for people, for the slow people in the back?
Yeah, we keep getting people saying, you made money from this lawsuit, blah, 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 blah. No, I didn't. Actually. So the Safe Drinking Water Act lawsuit is an enforcement lawsuit. It is to force the city and state to come into to comply with the federal Safe Drinking Water Act, which means because we were in violation of the Safe Drinking Water Act, they had to come into compliance. And what that meant, because the law stated that if you have lead, if your lead level's up and you're out of compliance, you need to start replacing service lines. You need to actually do proper corrosion control, and you need to start replacing lead service lines. That's what the law says. So that's what our lawsuit did, was to force the city to comply. And that's why we went to court over it, because promises from the city and state, yeah, we'll fix it. Wow. Yeah, we can see how well their promises are. They promised us there was no lead in the water. They promised us that our water was safe. They promised us that we had great quality water and the Flint River was safe. So yeah, their promises ain't worth jack. So we went to federal court. So the federal judge said, yeah, you need to do these things. So, and again, you'll hear 97 million for this many for this. So yes, it's forcing money to be spent, state money. The city's not paying a dime for this, just so you know. The city has to do the work and the reporting, but the money comes from the state. So basically, the city does the work, and Row Engineering is in there getting paid to do the work, and then they invoice the state for each address that's completed, and the state pays. So that's how that works. There's no pot of money sitting there for the city. And also the plaintiffs, let's see, March 28th of 2017 we had gone through court, and that's when we settled. Okay. We got the court said they were going to hold the state of Michigan in contempt unless we went into mediation, which we did for 2 months, and it was awful. But we were able to come to agreements on a lot of things. One, to keep the water pods open, because the state wanted to close them, in 2016, to get core and community education going, to get filters, to get these help centers going, to get all this other stuff, and to get lead and galvanized steel service lines replaced, not just at the street, because Melissa is a little clever with some things. Sometimes I'm clever. The law actually covers, the city side. That's it. Usually the private side, the residence side, they would have to pay for. So I asked the question for the court, and I asked the city, hey, yeah, water meter in my basement. Can I take that with me when I move? Can I just do whatever I want with it? Can I unplug it, move it? And they said, absolutely not. I said, well, then that's not my property. So anything that rolls up to that point is not mine. Y'all welcome. So that's how we changed the law, or we changed that side, to get the entire service line replaced at no cost to the residents. And I made sure that even if your water was shut off, if you had an active water account on March 28th, 2017, that you would be eligible for a service line replacement at no cost to you. And if you turned your water back on, you'd be eligible. So there was a lot of work put in, and this was 2017, and we were supposed to be finished by 2020. It is August. My birthday's next week. Coming up. And I sure would like it to be done. So August of 2023. So obviously it's late. It's gone on. It's drug on. In March 28th of 2017, the NRDC, Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC, and ACLU of Michigan, you're to turn in your receipts for legal costs. So experts and getting all the documentation and honestly, I wanted to be an attorney when I was a kid. I did, until I saw how much paperwork and work and stress and 24/7 work that these attorneys did for us. And I'm like, oh no. And I didn't have the patience. That's the thing. There's times in there, you would see the defendants straight up just lying and saying just awful things, especially during mediation. And I can't throw a table because apparently you're not allowed to do that and be like, yo, you're lying and you're trash. Why are you calling us, cockroaches? Why are you calling us names? Okay, fine. Wow. Oh, yeah. The things that went on, how they talked about us and to Flint residents. I'm seeing a lot of that, by the way, repeated with our current city council. We'll get to that. But anyway, so the attorneys, the ACLU and NRDC turned in receipts, so actual costs of $2.4 million. And that was March 28th of 2017. The judge said that the state would have to pay the attorneys $895,000 of that, which the attorneys were like, we were surprised we get anything because usually with this, we don't get, attorney's fees. So we're happy that we're getting something. And it took a couple years for them to actually get paid. But attorney's fees, so legal fees, filing fees, all that stuff, that didn't come to us. So the first thing you hear for people who were supporting the state and saying, oh no, the pastors and Melissa Mays got $895,000. If I did, do you think I'd still have bad water? Mickey, what would you? No. Would I still be wearing this $15 sweater that's fuzzing up? No. Would I still be driving my truck that's got 162,000 miles on it? No, although I do love my car. No. But also, I'm not an attorney. I don't even play one on TV. I just have some legal knowledge because I've been sitting through all these lawsuits and filings since 2015. So no, the pastors nor Melissa Mays got paid. We didn't even get, because of the way the Safe Drinking Water Act is, set up, we didn't even get our parking reimbursed. It's like $20 every time you park down there. We don't get the gas, the time that I have to take off of work to do all of these hearings, status meetings, and the in-person hearings. None of that got reimbursed. So I'm out money to do this for everybody. And the thing is that even though it is 2023 and we ain't making money, the attorneys have been out, by the way, out of pocket this entire time since 2017. We do this to make sure every single lead and galvanized steel service line is replaced and every property is restored. And so we're not giving up. We're not stopping until that's done, which is why we're still around, why we're still here talking about this. People are like, why don't you just give up? Why don't you just shut up? Yeah, I don't shut up when things are wrong. And the attorneys care so much about us that they've not left our sides and they want this done. And Flint should be an example of how to fix a wrong, how to right a wrong. It's just like pulling teeth. Actually, I think pulling teeth is a little easier at this point because it wouldn't take 6 years to get this done. However, August 1st went by. And what's funny is the week before, the mayor had put a statement saying, oh, we're going to hit it. We're going to have all the lines replaced by August 1st. And everybody was freaking out, being like, not mine. So Monday, I went to city council, and there were folks that stood up saying, my line's not been replaced. Nobody's responded back to me. I've called the city. I've emailed the city. I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and nobody's been here. And that was Monday, the 31st of July.
That's the question I got for you.
Yeah.
He came out and said that it was going to be dead 4 days ago.
Uh-huh. So what's interesting is that the city attorney and everybody that were there saw that there were residents, and I got up. It's funny, as soon as this lady had said this, the first lady that brought it up, I got up and went and got her contact information, address to send to the attorneys, because that's what I do. I get a list of people and I'll go knock on their doors. Sometimes I'll just pull up on your house, and if I've stopped at your house, I'm sorry, being a little weird, being like, hey, I see you have a hole in your yard. Can I take a picture of the hole in your yard, and can I turn your address and information in? And, would you mind telling me what's going on? Have you talked to city? Has anybody been here? I pop up. I just pop in and be like, hey, unpaid, because I care and because it's what's right. And that's the thing. I got brought up in a very messy household, but my father was military. So what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Very, very black and white with this. And it's easy because pipes out or in bad. If you have lead and galvanized steel, if they're still in the ground, that's wrong. Pipes out and replaced properly is good. It's not that hard. And again, the plumbers union said they could have enough volunteers to have this all done in a year. And that was replacing all of our infrastructure. Let's just remind everybody, service line is one piece. Unfortunately, the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act is outdated because politicians wanted to put their 2 cents in and make a public health protective law political. So it just sat here and hasn't been updated. That's why it's important that the new lead and copper rule coming out, be actual health protective, because so far it hasn't been. So distribution mains and interior plumbing are not covered by the law. So that's why our lawsuit only covered service lines, but that's one piece. So that was one step, one positive step in the right direction. Does not mean your water's safe, because it's basically a clean straw for you. But if there's other lead lines in your neighborhood or on your street that are left in, anytime there's a main break, which there's a lot, there can cause a backwash type of thing. And what's gross in their pipes can hit you, can come back into the system and go into your taps. And also, we don't even know. Somebody needs to look up how many main breaks we've had this year, or however, because as I was looking through that to try to find information of how many main breaks there's been in Flint this year, I came across a news article about one down the block from me. I was at work, so I didn't know. I was actually gone for the day. I didn't know that there was a main break at my house. And nobody told me, no boil water advisory. And I've got that code red, and it's not the Mountain Dew thing that apparently the mayor thinks it is. It's the actual emergency alert system that they want everybody to sign up for. I got no alerts saying, hey, main break, boil your water. Guess what you're coming home to? So I'm like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Nobody told me. And again, I didn't see the news. I was at work and missed it. So I didn't know that there were, it was rupturing right down the block from my house. Again. So it's great. So is our water safe? No. Is our infrastructure fixed? No. Do I believe that all of the service lines had been replaced as of August 1st? No, because I can look down my street and see my neighbors still hasn't been dug up. There were people coming to city council saying no. And that's why the statement on the 1st that came out by the city was a lot more conservative and said, we're looking through our documentation to see if it's done. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's enough people out there saying that theirs haven't been done. So, no. And also looking at how the city has been the past, 3 years that this is supposed to be done, just basically being like, tough, deal with it. Give up or not stop. We're not going to do this. We're going to give you this little piece and be like, be done with you. Leave now. And thankfully the attorneys actually care and they haven't left. And I am so much, of my life, and this isn't my person, it's not me, don't feel sorry for me. Like my whole life is this and crappy water now, which it used to be pretty cool about music and all kind of neat things, but not so much anymore. But also I'm like, I ain't letting you wreck all these people's lives. Y'all made this decision, the city and state, because the state's just sitting back letting the city just fail us. And let y'all just be like, nah, here you go, peasants. Here, have your little pieces. It's good enough. But then, you see in certain wards that got the wealthier neighborhoods getting new mains and all that great stuff and new roads. I'm not okay with that.
How do we change that, though, the perception? Because I'm looking at, like this, we just had the Councilwoman Jerry Winfrey Carter and Councilwoman Tanya Burns. When you had Councilwoman Liddell Lewis saying, I could spend you for 30 days, just basically throwing them out if you ask for anything. Like you said, with the mayor coming out. Who do we got that can help Flint?
Let me just tell you this. So went to city council. That's why I threatened to punch Mickey afterwards, because I told him I owe you a punch. So I went to see because they were supposed to be voting on suspending First Ward Councilman Eric Mays. And I wanted to see, are they actually going to do this? And folks, before it happened, folks got up here and gave public comment saying, that's my council person. Please don't silence me. Because remember, you may not like Eric personally. I do. And it ain't even about the last name, although it's pretty awesome. I like him because in January 2015, I didn't know what I was doing. I was standing in the snow on the sidewalk, holding up signs, talking to people. And this lanky fellow with his deep voice come up to me and was like, hello, who are you? How are you doing? How's your water? How can I help? I didn't know he was a city council person. I'd never been to a city council meeting. I had never followed politics. I didn't care. I didn't, I paid taxes and I would vote, for like the presidential elections. Other than that, I'm like, man, I got 4 kids at the time because I was raising my niece, and I got, I work all the time, I run my business. I got all this other stuff going on, and I'm in my 30s. What do I know? Right. It's that misconception that politics don't impact you in your everyday life, which they do. And I watched this person stand up for us, get silenced as he sat up in city council trying to say there's something wrong with the water. We got to do something. We need to vote to get off the Flint River. We need to do this to rally the other city council people, but also to remind them that the city council has the power to actually subpoena the emergency managers and the governor. And I watched him get shot down every time he tried to pass this. And I watched him get angrier and angrier and frustrated, more frustrated. Okay, fine. So I wanted to see if these current city council people were going to repeat what the emergency manager had done. At that time, the emergency manager had silenced Eric Mays, first ward city council person, and said he wasn't allowed to talk to him because, I guess it runs in the Mays line, he asked questions. You may not like the questions. He may be blunt about it. And he may not back off until you give him a proper answer, but that's what somebody who advocates for their people does. You may not like that he's loud. You may not like his personal life. It shouldn't matter. His ward voted him in. And I'll tell you, as a social worker and an advocate, if I have somebody come to me saying my water shut off, or this is happening to me, or this is happening to me, there's blight, there's rats, there's this and that. If that person's council person does not respond to them, has not responded to them, I know that we can get a hold of Eric, and Eric will get on it. Even though it ain't his ward. He'll do that. He's one of the few. And one of the reasons I don't run for city council myself is because I would be losing my temper as well. If I've been up there a decade trying to protect my people, trying to get the other people on city council to care about their own people and to understand what needs to be done, I'd be yelling and screaming too. You know, it's like being at home. I just want the kids to clean up their mess. Scoop the litter box, pick your socks up. And I end up yelling. You know why? Because they ain't listening. And talking don't matter. And what I saw Monday was even though he knew that there was a vote to suspend him for cussing when he was already removed from the meeting and for being disruptive, he sat up there and was trying to help Liddell Lewis, Judy Priestley, and even Quincy Murphy with Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, so I didn't know Robert's Rules until I was elected to be the chair of the Michigan Environmental and Energy Caucus. I'm like, what is this? But they said if the meeting is going to be legal and count, you have to do these things. You have to follow Robert's Rules. So, of course, I called Eric, and he's like, well, here's the book for it. Here's this, and here's a cheat sheet you can keep with you at meetings. And that saved my backside because I'm like, oh, I'm just here to fight for what's right. However, if the meetings are going to move forward, if votes are going to count, you have to follow the rules. So he was sitting there helping city council folk, and they're like, this, and, you know, they're getting mad at him for pointing out they're doing it wrong. But if they do it wrong, then it doesn't count. So why are you wasting and you talk about wasting your time? So yeah, he interrupts or he'll say point of order. So it's, you know, they're supposed to listen. And then I watched the chair, Councilwoman Liddell Lewis say, go ahead, keep talking, just interjecting. Here's the thing, that's going to tick anybody off. But then you hear there's other city council. I watched Eva Worthing just talk over him. And then I got up there to speak. So then here come residents. So his voters, his actual constituents are saying, please don't silence us. I got up there. Claire McClinton. You don't mess with Claire. Miss Claire will shut you down. And she did. She actually said that, what did she call morally bankrupt? Mm-hmm. Because they're up there and what they're doing, what city council is currently doing is airing out their own personal business. They're wasting our time and tax dollars while complaining about it's their time being a clique, like middle school. You know, like, oh, well, I don't like that person, or so-and-so told me not to like that person, so we're just gonna try to kick them out. Imagine going into your job saying, I don't like, you know, this lady over here, so let's have the cops arrest her. How pathetic, how petty. And this is worse, because they're attacking Eric because they don't like him. I don't care. I didn't vote for you to like anybody. I voted for you to stand up for me and do what's right for my ward and my city. I don't care if you don't like this person. So Claire told them, is this council tall enough to not do this? To not vote to silence somebody, to silence a ward? To figure out how to work together like adults, leaving your personal business at the door. I ain't paying taxes for you to get paid to air out your personal business. So then it became my time to speak. And again, I wasn't even going to talk. until I saw people getting up there saying my line ain't been replaced and their council people just sitting there looking blank. Or worse, this. Now look, my kids, when I'm talking to them, if they're doing this, we got a problem. If they're sitting up here doing this, rolling their eyes, not looking, that is super disrespectful. So I got up there in my little 3 minutes and asked why they couldn't even make eye contact with any of the residents up there, sharing their pain, sharing their concerns, their fears, and what they need the council to do for them. Watching them not make eye contact and just scroll like they bratty teenagers. But then throwing insults, calling people narcissists, this. No. All the while not knowing their jobs and Robert's Rules of Order. They tried to go make, without even having all the council people there, make their own laws just so they can shortcut it. Lazy. No. Violating the city charter, all this great stuff. And so here we are. So I sat there and put up with it for as long as I could. And I had something to say. And the thing is that they didn't listen. They didn't listen to any of us. So basically, this message is for every council person who did not vote against silencing a ward. Because again, you don't like Eric Mays, who cares? He ain't there to be your bestie. That ain't what you're elected for. You're elected to do the job for your people. He answers the phone when you don't. He stands with the people who are suffering and you don't. You can't be bothered. Couldn't even be bothered to look at people who are upset in the eye when they're speaking to you. And I don't know how y'all were raised, but again, going back to my military, no, it's just common decency. When somebody's talking to you, especially when they're telling you their suffering and their pain and asking you to do things to work for them like you're supposed to, and you're too busy looking at your stupid phone or down at your nails or down at your whatever, or looking around, or watching two of the council folk just whisper back and forth to one another, not even listening. That's disrespectful. You don't need that seat. And so that's what I said. Hey, if you can't be a grown-up and put your personal stuff aside and come in here and work for the people, this job ain't for you. Step down and let somebody else who cares about the people, who can understand Robert's Rules of Orders and how a meeting's supposed to go, and who can put their personal problems outside at the door and go to work for the people, let them in. So what can we do about this, Mickey? What we can do is there's recalls approved. So if you got problems with your council person and they got a recall approved, sign that. Because it's time for the residents to, once again, get up, even though we're tired, even though we're over it, and we got a million other things to do. These people are not working for you. And not all of them. I'll tell you that. Not all of them. There were a few that looked me in the eye. There were a few that took notes and actually responded to the residents after public comment. There are a few that actually hopped up to go ask residents, what's your address? How can we help? Right? That's what they're supposed to do. And then there was a handful that voted against removing the council person. Because again, this is supposed to be a democracy. So why should 8 of the 9 wards get to make the decisions? Why'd you silence the entire first ward? What's that say about you? Just because you don't like the person that they chose to represent you. And this ain't about like. This is how we had the Trump issue, right? Like, people are like, hey, I like this personality. Well, great. Leave that TV personality as a TV personality. That ain't how politics works. You ain't got to like the person up there. Or even if you do like the person up there, if they're not doing the job, get them out. If they're not right for the job, get them out. And I'll tell you, seeing all this coddling too, man, I have been called, because all I do is fight for clean water and I call things out, as they are. And I try to offer solutions and I try to say, this is what we need to do. I've been called every name in the book, but I'm sitting here watching these council people post, oh, this mean person, which I think somebody doxed a resident. They showed a screenshot. Councilwoman Lewis showed a screenshot of an email that was full of foul language, by the way, if they're talking about cussing. She didn't edit it, but also has their email address and name and everything on there. Is that doxing? Because I don't think you should be giving the personal information out. And she blocked him. And also, I thought there was a thing that your elected officials, they're not supposed to block their constituents. Either way, I don't know. Look, I'm not an elected official. All I know is that posting that to get pity, look, you decided to run for public office. So maybe grow a thicker skin. And if people don't like you, maybe try to find out why they don't like you and why they want you to resign. Because I saw favoritism up there. I saw no leadership whatsoever. I saw people didn't know how to actually run an agenda, didn't know how to change things on the agenda, back and forth, this and this. And I watched other council people just go along with it because they in a clique and they apparently ain't got to think for themselves. this is not you. This is not just you sitting up there. That, same as our mayor. This ain't about you furthering your political career or making a cushy thing or, being popular, this and that. No. You're supposed to be doing what's right by the residents. Same with our state rep. State senator all the way up to... No. I mean, sorry. We do. But unfortunately, our mayor and city council or our state rep are married. And so, again, I'm not seeing the movement for Flint that our state rep should be doing. Our state rep should be screaming that bottle bill is another tax and punishment on the poison people. 10 cents a bottle. That doubles the cost of a case of water for people who have to live. It's in our water quality report that if you're immunocompromised, blah, 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 the water ain't for you. So now we got to pay twice because this mayor currently let the water donations from Blue Triton, which used to be Nestle, just stop. Just stop. The free donations just stopped. So here we sitting here watching these folks not work for us. And again, I saw that. And so shame on every single person that did not vote to stop the first word from being silenced.
So how did you now see? That's what I love. You the only one that I didn't heard say that. When I remember, man, you talked afterwards. You said not that they silenced Eric Mays.
No,
you looked at the people. Of the first ward.
The people of the first ward have elected Eric Mays to represent them and to work for them and to do what is right by them. They chose. So what right do the other council people have to silence the voters in the first ward? They are replicating the emergency manager, which is silencing the voters, suspending democracy, because they got a personal problem with Eric Mays and how he behaves. Now, I'll tell you this. She said, you interrupted, Liddell Lewis was saying, you interrupted, you're getting a warning, this. But I saw other council people talking over one another. I saw, Eva Worthing shouting, Eric's a narcissist down from the end. This is one meeting. I saw pictures and video of one councilwoman, Eva Worthing, standing over Councilwoman Tanya Burns, who's my councilwoman, and had I been there, we'd have had an issue because I voted for her, and you ain't got a right to try to intimidate and stand over somebody else and act a fool, but not get kicked out. So again, if everybody's acting out of order and you're mad, then maybe do what's fair and punish everybody in the same fashion. But no, this lack of leadership and this cliquey stuff and doing whatever your buddy up there wants you to do. If I raised my kids like that, they'd hate me because that's unfair. You're not treating your kids the same way. You're not punishing the same way. You're not rewarding them the same way. So my kids would hate me and they have every right to.
Now you just said the key word. Then you just hear what you said. You like you said, I was treating my kid. Now you looking at these are council people.
That's children.
Showing favoritism. Oh, right. Yeah. They're showing favoritism.
Uh-huh.
And like you said, you just went up there and had.
I went up there to talk about August 1st, which was the next day, to see if there was anything, and it wasn't even on the agenda, by the way, but to see if anybody had anything to say about August 1st coming the next day. And if they'd talked to their residents and to the people in their ward to make sure all their pipes had been replaced. I asked that question, and I got from some people who, even actually looked at me, crickets. No answer, by the way, except I did talk to Councilwoman Jerry Winfrey Carter and Councilwoman Burns. And of course, I talked to Eric because Eric's always asking, hey, what's going on with that? I got these people. And they give me a list like they're supposed to of addresses for people who are still not getting taken care of, which I appreciate. Yeah, but here we are, personal problems, Aaron and personal issues. And what's funny is that then they started yelling and yelling at each other. And she just talking over people, but letting, I was watching Liddell Lewis let, Judy Priestley yell, watching, Quincy Murphy go at Jolena Freeman, a voter, resident, just going in on her. And I'm like, this is allowed though? But Eric said a cuss word. And then apparently Pfeiffer had said cuss words and nothing happened and all this stuff. So it's just, if you're going to silence one ward, silence the rest of them that are acting out of pocket, including yourself. Because she was interrupting Eric.
Do you think they're trying to set this up for a state takeover?
Yes. I think they're trying, and I mean, if they actually are this messy, they're trying to make us look like we are completely helpless. I mean, look, the mayor can't even balance a budget or appoint a CFO to make sure that we're not going into the red. And also with all this money, here's the thing. I don't know how we go on bankrupt when we got all these funds just floating around for this, and whatever. And also, I don't know what improvements were made with that money that supposedly is gone. And yet I want to, find out from the ad hoc committee for where the ARPA funds are, but they don't meet and they don't talk to people, and they are trying to push to have these meetings behind closed doors. But yet the mayor's out there going, we're going in the red, we're going bankrupt, blah, 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 blah. Why? Where's my money? Where's my money going? Who's getting paid up here? Where is it going? Because I know we're paying taxes. Comes out of my paycheck every single week. So what up with that? And then people paying property taxes, people paying this. But also, what about all the money? What about all the funding?
I can tell you where them budgets that he passed. Every budget that he passed except the first one when Dr. Weaver left him, well, as he say, he found 20 million. Like if you walk out, if 20 million out there, that's fine.
I left 20 million in my purse and it was on the sidewalk. My bad.
That's fine, but it was in a bank account. But
yeah, like where money should be.
How do you pass budgets? Was it last year? It was 10 million they was off, but they never go through. This year it's 14, but they didn't go through it. That's 20 to 25 million for 2 years that you didn't took from the ARPA funds. But they keep passing this 5 to 6. Keep passing they won't even go through the budget to see like why are we down. Now, like they said, they had the FOIA to get how much money the opera money left.
Right.
30 to 40 with 30 to 50 million. But what about is that 14 million got to come out of that 30 to 50 million that's left to cover this year's budget. And we're already looking at being in the hole again for next year. So basically, the opera money gonna be and went to basically covering his budget and paying his people with the 501c3.
Yeah, and also it's interesting because I've seen him request massive raises for his city administrator and all that stuff. I'm like, well, how are you getting raises when we in a hole? But also, these are excellent questions that you bring up, Mickey, about where's the budget? Can we go through it? But no, when you go to city council to find out what's going on, they're like, we don't like Eric, so we need him to shut up. You know why you don't like Eric? Because he asks questions. He asks questions and is trying to bring everything out to the open so the residents know what's going on with their money. So you silence him. You punish him for what? And they punish him. They silence him till September 1st. I wonder how much of the voting and how much of the budget moving around is going to happen while he's not allowed to be there in his official capacity. So that's the thing. Why are you trying to silence somebody? And again, why are you trying to be emergency managers? Why are you trying to silence the voters? Why won't you answer questions or your phones? Why won't you help your residents? Have you gone to your constituents and asked them if their lead service lines were replaced and if their properties are restored? Because I ain't hearing anything from anybody but, just a few. And you can tell which. And here's the messed up thing: the people that are going along to get along. I'm gonna name them. Am I allowed to do that? Am I going to do that? So Liddell Lewis, Councilwoman Liddell Lewis, Judy Priestley, what's his name? Pfeiffer and Eva Worthing and Quincy Murphy, and hopefully not Candace Machot. Let's just say that because, I know her personally, and I have a lot of hope that she won't fall into this clique situation. They vote along the same lines no matter what.
How long you think it's going to take not to cut you off? Because personally, I'm just going to be real with you. I was at city council when they was voting. I was in the garage, in the parking garage. We was in the park. People already knew Candace was going to get it, so she had 5 votes. That's just my thing. If you got 5 votes.
Right. And I hope not, because I had I'd tell her, I'm like, look, I love you, dude, but I will go in on you as well if you don't do what's right by the people. And that's our power, by the way, as voters, as Flint residents.
Right.
That's our power, is to call them out, to shame them, not sit back and be like, oh, well, we can't do anything because they're up there. Doesn't mean they got to stay up there. Just because they get that seat don't mean it. Because how many got recalls against them? Sign in petitions if you're not happy with your city council person, and then vote and push people. Meet with your community or just chat online to find out what your issues are and what your neighbors, because guarantee you they're having the same problems, right? You ain't alone. And it's how we busted out the Flint water crisis. One, finding out that everybody across this entire city was having similar problems, and then calling out the elected officials. And again, you may not like Eric Mays, but he was right there with us, standing out in the snow, cold, rain, all that stuff, calling it out, begging city council to use their subpoena powers to subpoena the emergency managers and former Governor Snyder. And they didn't go along. Why? Because they're going along to get along, to keep their job and their political blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That can change in a heartbeat. You know how that can change? Us. And if you're not happy with your council person, if you're not happy with this click crap going on, where they're just going to vote without asking questions and they're going to sit up here and do this. And again, I had posted on my Facebook, I'm like, they could be sitting on a phone learning Robert's Rules of Order or reading the city charter and not violating it. Or maybe reaching out to their constituents to see, hey, how's your water? How you doing? Is your pipe replaced? How you doing? Thanks for voting for me. So how about I do my job now? Just a thought. But instead, it's a daycare up there, and it's a daycare / middle, click, and they just jab at each other. Like I said, Quincy Murphy and Judy Priestley were just whispering back and forth while people were up there, residents were up there talking. Liddell Lewis was interrupting Eric every time he said point of order, meaning he had something or point of information, a question. And those are all legal things you're supposed to do in a meeting, to bring out information. And the reason he does that, and he explains it and said, I want the people to know this is why this is happening, because he wants the residents to know how government works. Now, that's how you make a change, because once the people know how government is supposed to work and they see that it's not working like that, then people are going to get displeased and people are going to be able to make a change by voting, by recalling, signing petitions, showing up to city council meetings, emailing, calling, posting, talking to one another. Because at the end of the day, yes, we got corporations running everything in this country. Yes, we got a mess and we're up against this whole big mountain of greed and corruption and lies and people without backbones and who couldn't care less about the residents of Flint. But we care. So you stand up. So you use your voice, because at the end of the day, the power does lie within us. And that's it. And that's why we try to work to educate folks. And that's why we want to make sure that you know what happened. First of all, doesn't matter if you like Eric. You don't need to be there to like people. Silencing his word by suspending him is as undemocratic as you can get. Dictatorship. Just because you don't like what somebody's saying, you're silencing them. But again, you're not just silencing Eric. So shame on this council and everybody who did not. Now, several council people did vote. So Councilwoman Burns, Councilwoman Winfrey Carter, yeah, well, was that it? That was it. So those two women voted to not suspend Eric. Councilwoman Mashot abstained, which is basically still a vote. Even if, and again, I'm not going to tell her how to do a job, but yeah, maybe. You abstain for something that serious. When you see democracy being, what do you call that? When you go around democracy, or you just tape democracy's mouth shut and the voters' mouth shut, you speak up. You speak up and say, this is wrong. Even if you don't agree with how Eric does his thing, you know how Eric operates. You're silencing his people.
He got 5 minutes to talk. That's all they got each council. 5, and on the second when they go, it's 2 minutes.
Right. So you're not even giving him his 5 minutes. And why don't you want to hear his 5 minutes? And yeah, he gets mad and loses his temper. But again, if you've been to city council, which a lot of these folks have not, who sit up there, apparently they ain't been around or didn't live in Flint or whatever their problems are. They weren't around because Eric didn't always be like this. The fact that he's been trying to get stuff done for Flint and personality problems and cliques and doing what the mayor wants you to do and going along to get along. One, it's led our city into a hole. Obviously, there's been a huge lack of leadership. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the deficits we have. We still wouldn't have pipes in the ground. We still wouldn't be suing. We wouldn't be asking a judge to hold the mayor and city administration in contempt of federal court for not doing what the judge told them to do for the umpteenth time. So, again, you may not like Eric, and this ain't about Eric, though. This is about the first ward voters. What happens when the person you voted for gets silenced? Because if your council person doesn't follow along, it looks like the clique's just going to try to set him outside, try to get him kicked out of the meeting. And why? Why don't you have the backbone to work with your fellow council people? And maybe don't do things that agitate folks. Maybe don't interrupt. If somebody says point of order, you give them the floor, and then you don't be like, go ahead, go on, go ahead, go on. No. You just know that's just egging people. Come on, then. But also, why aren't you holding yourself in a warning, in a violation there? Because you talked over him. You're taking up his time. That's a no-no. Grow up. But I think it's become is that we've allowed these folks to do what they want because we like them, or we're tired, or we feel helpless, whatever. I don't care if I like you. And you know what? Eric and I have talked about it. We've talked about like him losing his temper and letting people get to him. We've talked about this stuff. I will let you know if I'm unhappy with how you running things. And now it looks like I got to keep going back to city council and watching this mess. And Mickey, it's your fault. I'm going to punch you in the arm.
I'm going to see you there at the next one. We're going to be there.
Yes. And so, so basically there's that. So real quick before we finish, there are water assistance programs, some of which are expiring. Okay. So here we go real quick. There is the RAP program. And what this is the Water Residential Assistance Program that was started actually in 2018. And it's working with Great Lakes Water Authority and Wayne Metro, the Action Agency, on how you can get assistance with water bills as well as repairs in your house. So the RAP program is important. So you need to, you can check that out. You can go to the City of Flint has a water assistance program for residents, but I'm going to give you some phone numbers. So for the RAP program, you're good to call 313-386-9727. Okay.
RAP is W-A-R-P, right?
Yes. And you can go to www.waynemetro, all one word, .org/RAP, WRAP. And that's how you can get money. You can get money for monthly bills. You can get back stuff paid, and you can get money for fixing leaks if you have them.
What's the number again?
The number is, thank you, Mickey. The number is 313. 386 5727. Okay. So yes, so that's for the RAP program. That's important. Also, there is LIWAP, and it's LIHWAP. If you know what LIHEAP is, HWAP, which is Low Income Household Water Assistance Program. Now, we need everybody to go do this because the city and the county aren't really pushing for it, but there was over $1 million allocated for this program, and they've only helped like 685 folks. Come on in. There's more than that in the city of Flint, but this for the whole county. So the number to call for this so basically it's a temporary emergency program to help low-income households pay overdue water and wastewater bills. So it's water and sewer, which is important, and to stop shutoffs or to get your water back on. The phone number, you got to go through G Card, and the phone number is 810-232-2185. And you can Google LIHWAP to get the information. Just look up LIWAP if you need to, but you can call G Card to get that going. And you can also always go to DHS and file a state emergency relief form if you've got a shut-off notice or if your water has been shut off. WAP. Okay. It's LIWAP. Yep. And the LIWAP funds have to be spent by September. Otherwise, and also we've had meetings about re-upping this program and making it a federal program and funding this program. We just got to show there's a need for it. And unfortunately, there's not been enough push in our community for this. So yeah, so there, and I'll put links in the chat when I hop back in after a bit. And so yeah, so the RAP program, because unfortunately, even though our mains are upshoring and our water quality is not okay and our water is unstable, our water bills are still some of the highest in the United States, 8 times the national average. So for water, not even including the bottled water that we have to pay for. So, so basically it's, G Card is supposed to be helping. There's also a emergency services hotline for shut-off and shut-off prevention for utilities. So water and consumers. And anybody who's called G Card knows the game. It's Monday through Thursday, beginning at 8:30 a.m. sharp. And you're going to call 810-768-4675. Yep. 768-4675. 4675.
And that's G Card.
That's G Card. And that's for utility shutoff prevention using the LIWAP funds and LIHEAP and things like that. So yes, there are funds in place. And then of course, going back to what I'm always saying, if you have not had your service line excavated, inspected, and or replaced, or your property restored, and again, yards, sidewalks, streets, driveways, homes, whatever was disrupted during the construction part, you need to call 810-410-1133, and I'll post this in there too. And then you email gettheleadout@cityofflint.com, and also copy that with Flint pipe removal at gmail.com. And that email is going to the Natural Resources Defense Council so they can monitor and make sure you're getting, what you need. Okay. So, and then don't forget, City has at City Hall from 9 to 4, you can go get, supposedly, you can go get your water filters, because water filters are recommended for 1 year past the end of construction, because it shakes up the system, right? And that does not include all of the main breaks. So if you're going to drink filtered water, please replace your cartridges often, especially if there's boil water advisory, replace it immediately. And thanks to our lawsuit, you are guaranteed free cartridge and cartridge replacements and filters. And that number is to the Flint Public Health Navigators, 810-410-2020. Now, if you are calling these numbers, the city numbers, the numbers to the city of Flint and Row about the pipes, or the Flint Public Health Navigators, and you're not getting the response, please record the phone calls and please let me know. Please reach out. I have had people popping in and reach out and giving me information. That's awesome. Or if you have time, if you go to the Flint Rising Facebook page, pinned to the top, we have a survey. And it's lengthy, but it's detailed because we want to hear what's going on so we can give the information to the courts, to let them know what's going on. And it talks about your experience with these phone numbers, getting assistance, as well as getting your pipe replaced and yard restored. So if you go, if you go to flintrising.com, it's there. But also if you go to our Facebook page, it's at the top and it's a survey. And yes, it takes a few minutes, but we appreciate the input, because again, the information that matters the most is what's coming from the Flint residents and what's happening on the ground. And we just need to shake it up. Speaking of the ground, we need to shake it up and actually replace folks who are in the way of progress and who decide to take up their time by airing out the personal business and their personal dislikes and likes. Don't care. And also, if you don't like me, I also don't care. But here's some information for you. I have that. People are like, oh, I don't like her. I don't care. I got friends. It's cool. I think my kids like me. My cat likes me. It's all right. But I'm giving you information. Please take this information, share it with your neighbors, and your voice matters. So stand up. And yeah, if there's recall petitions going around, sign them bad boys. Send a message that no, this click mess is not going to happen. And no, you're not going to keep us poisoned and in poverty and stressing every day on how we're going to survive, because we are Flint. We are Flint. We are strong. We are resilient, all that stuff. But also, we ain't putting up with nothing. We fighters. Flint, yep. Again, I'll go back saying, love you guys. Please take care of one another and yourself. And remember, we've been victimized, but Flint's fighters, and we're not going to let them forget it. All right. Have a great week, and I will see you next Saturday.